It's time for another episode of the Franchise Business Radio Show, broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. Sponsored by Franchise Intellect, knowledge and insight of the franchise community for franchise selection. More info at franchiseintellect.com. Also made possible in part by Franchise City, a better way to buy a franchise. More info at franchise.city. And now here's your host, Pam Curry.
Hello, welcome to the Franchise Business Radio Show. This is host Pamela Curry, bringing together franchise professionals and resources to connect, educate, and collaborate to serve the franchise community. So excited about today's show. For all you listeners out there, we have some fabulous guests in the studio today. And this is, I really think a lot of this show is going to be geared towards the individuals out there that want to be mini empire builders. So I'd like to go ahead and kick off the show with our first guest. Grant, welcome.
Hello.
We have Grant Simon, who is the CEO of LSGF Management, along with his partner, Greg Thomas. Greg, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I just want to share with our listeners, Grant, a little bit about you. Grant Simon is a serial entrepreneur with over 30 years of business management experience in retail, food, and service industries. As a multi-unit franchisee, his current brand portfolio includes Great Clips, Smoothie King, and T-Mobile, and you have over 160 locations throughout the Southeast.
Yes.
Wow. Employing over 1,200 people. And you graduated from University of Florida with a BS in finance.
Correct.
Okay, Grant.
Go Gators.
Go Gators. Okay, well, first and foremost, how does someone with a background in finance, and did I hear you earlier say that you have a background in banking as well?
Well, I started out in banking and realized it wasn't for me.
Oh, well, obviously, yeah. Right. Well, I'm trying to figure out where, I think a good place to start is how do you transition out of this finance banking background into entrepreneurship, or should I say franchipreneurship?
Yeah, well, my father was an entrepreneur, and that's the way he raised us and basically taught us that it's better to work for yourself than work for a company, which is the opposite of what most parents teach their kids. So I worked for about 6 months in banking before I started my first business.
And would you mind sharing a little bit about that? How did you get started? How did you make that transition?
Well, moving forward a couple of years where I dabbled with a few other things. I was a customer of Great Clips 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. I get off work at 7 p.m. and it was the only place open. It was kind of a new concept, quicker cut haircuts.
Yeah.
And I realized that they had something going because it was always packed at 7 p.m. So I started talking to the stylist, talking to the manager, realized it was a good business. Signed up, opened my first location. Turned out to be a really great location, one of the top 20 in the United States. And back then, they only had 400 locations. Today, they have 4,000.
Wow. So timing, obviously, is important. There's that sweet spot, right? Did you start off as a single-unit operator?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was in Cumming, Georgia.
Okay. So start as a single-unit operator.
Yep.
And at what point did you decide to become a multi-unit operator?
When a location became available, there was a franchisee that was failing. I decided to buy his store, and I was just going to close it and relocate the fixtures. And I got in there and realized it was just poor management. We kind of turned it around. It turned out to be another great location.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to bring this question up yet, but I think an important question for us to address for our listeners is how can you have the same brand, the same opportunity, the same training, the same support, but not have equal success? Well, go ahead. Any thoughts around that?
Well, it's management style, perseverance. A lot of times people just give up too early. What I saw over the years was people would get in there and do a great job, and after about a year or 2 years, they would get frustrated and move on, and then somebody else would go in and not do anything different, and then the business would take off. So a lot of times it's just waiting it out.
Yeah, and right, because I do like when I work with clients, I do like to say there's sort of this 12 to 18 month. It's a grind, but then it starts to stabilize. Do you think that's a fair assessment based upon your experience?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Well, I know that you have a business partner in the studio as well, Greg Thomas, and the two of you are partners with the company LSGF Management.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that stand for?
It stands for Life's Short, Grow Fast.
Life's Short, Grow Fast.
Which is kind of our motto.
I like it. How long ago did you and Greg partner?
7 years ago, maybe.
About 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
We were both Great Clips franchisees, and we're actually previously neighbors as well. He became a Great Clips franchisee, and we realized we work better together. He's got different skills than I do, and we merge our companies.
That's great. Any advice around, I guess, selecting a business partner?
I've had business partners in the past before that didn't work out, and I've had ones that have worked out. The ones that you have where you make money usually last. The ones you have where you don't make money usually dissolve.
Fair enough. We can understand why, right?
Yes.
Show me the money. Before I want to go over to Greg as well, because I know the two of you have approached this business differently, and obviously it's turned out to be a very complementary business partnership. Any advice that you would like to give to our listeners who are considering multi-unit franchising? Or thoughts?
Well, you just have to do it.
Go for it. Pull the trigger.
Exactly. You have to find a concept that works. A multi-unit franchise, not all of them do. Some of them you need to be there all the time for. Those ones will not work. Finding the right brand that's going to either an emerging brand that's going to work out, or an established brand where you're going to have good business.
And it sounds like there's a little bit of a timing component in there, right? If you're looking for the scalability, it sounds like, there's a bit of a timing. Like it'd be difficult, I'm assuming, to get into a Great Clips and achieve what you've achieved right now.
Right now, yeah, most markets are sold out. They've been sold out for many years. So getting into Atlanta would be very difficult. You'd have to buy out somebody that's already has an established business. Yeah. It would be a little bit more difficult, yes.
Makes sense, definitely. Well, good. Well, thank you so much. And I'm excited to have you on the show. And Greg, welcome. If you don't mind, I'm going to give the listeners a little bit of a background on you. Greg Thomas is president of LSGF Management and a franchisee of several brands, obviously Great Clips and Smoothie King. Working as a water delivery boy in 2004 and having a net worth of about zero. Somehow Greg embellished some financial applications. You secured a loan to buy a distressed, underperforming hair salon. Okay, so a different approach to this. A combination of great operations and out-of-the-box marketing led this to become the fastest-growing segment in the industry, the salon space in the country. I'm sorry, fastest-growing salon in the country. Following that same business model, you bought several more distressed businesses. A few years later, you partnered up with your neighbor here, Grant Simon, and now business partner, to form LSGF Management, which currently owns and operates 160 stores. Amazing. You have served as co-op president for 8 years. In that role, you have developed several large cross-promotions and charity marketing concepts with the goal of increasing foot traffic without discounting. I might ask you to explain that. What do you mean by that?
There's different ways to drive foot traffic into your stores. Coupons one, radios one, TVs one. I'm not big into discounting. I think there's a different way to do it. So I came up with some different gift with purchase ideas. Also came up with some different ways to raise money for charity.
Wonderful. Yeah, one of the programs at Great Clips was a 300 NASCAR race, which resulted in the highest attendant nationwide as far as races in Atlanta's history. Wow.
You stole all my...
did I steal your thunder?
Maybe not the thunder.
A little bit of lightning.
But my background, Grant and I were not partners originally. Grant got into franchising way before me. He was very successful way before me. I did not know him when he got into Great Clips. But my background is I was delivering a water truck, delivering the 5-gallon bottled water for a company called Lipsy Water, and going nowhere fast in life. And had 2 little kids at home, and I was not doing very well at all financially. Had a great wife, great kids, but wasn't doing well financially. And I went and got my hair cut at a Great Clips hair salon in Holcomb, in Norcross, Dunwoody, that area of Georgia. And I thought I got a good haircut, but I thought the place was terrible, so I told the stylist, nice haircut, but this place sucks. Sorry. And she said it's for sale if I wanted to buy it. And I just said, okay, great. And I left there, and I started thinking about it on the way home, and then I pulled into a bank and decided I would exaggerate a little bit on a bank loan, so somehow they got it. Somehow they gave me a bank loan. And then when I got back into Great Clips, I drove back over there a couple weeks later, and I told them I bought the place, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got no business ownership skills. I don't know how to cut hair. I don't know much, but I do know that in my previous job I was treated pretty poorly. And I know that if I treat you well, you're going to perform well, and if I pay you well, you'll perform even better. And I really believe that if you pay people minimum wage, you're going to get the minimum performance. So I bought that store, and then I didn't realize you needed to have working capital to get started. So I didn't have any money to do marketing, so I had to come up with my own marketing. So I created a Post-it note that said Great Clips at the top and $5 off on the bottom. And every morning between 5 and 7 a.m. before I went and delivered water, I'd drive up and down the neighborhood streets, and I just slapped coupons on the outside of the mailboxes. And if it was raining or there was frost on the mailbox and they didn't stick, I'd go park my car at an apartment complex, and I'd scale over the security fence, and then I'd run up and down the corridor, and I'd slap them on the outside of mailboxes. But I did whatever it took. I basically out-hustled everybody. I'm not wealthier, I'm not smarter than anybody else, but I out-hustled everybody, and that store soon became the fastest-growing one in the country, and I was able to buy another one and another one. And that's how we got started.
What a great story. I kind of kid with people and go, hey, listen, this isn't the field of dreams, right? You don't just buy a business and then the people come. And that story is a testimony to that. I guess generally speaking, why do you think businesses fail?
A lot of the times it's the owner doesn't know how to treat people. We bought a group of stores in Auburn, Alabama, where the business owner didn't know how to do marketing. He was discounting to every customer. We bought another store where the owner was treating their employees poorly, and that didn't work. We had another store that had absolutely no diversity. That didn't work. I mean, you got to have a diverse workforce. You got to hire good people regardless of their ethnicity or anything else. So in order to be a good franchisee or a successful business owner, I should say, you have to sort of be a jack of all trades. You need to know a little bit about accounting, a little bit about real estate, a little bit about management, a little bit about everything. And if you fail in any one of those areas, you will fail. My niche was very much my business partner Grant focused on building new stores. I focused on buying distressed stores, businesses where other people failed. And there's a lot of them that fail. And partnerships often fail, but when you get into if you ask some questions about why businesses fail, we know hundreds of them and why they fail. And Grant and I, our claim to fame for quite a number of years was everything we bought, we'd buy it at the right price, but we'd turn it cash flow positive within 90 days. It hasn't always worked that way, but most of the time it hasn't.
That's a pretty good track record if you get that going. If you were going to, well, you really approached it differently then. You approached it by buying the distress, and that makes me think of flipping homes, right?
Except in flipping homes, everybody and their brother does that.
Yes.
When you go bid on a business or make an offer on a business, there's usually only one or two other people bidding on it. It's not like there's hundreds. And sometimes if there's only one person bidding on it, if you're the only one, if you're at the right place at the right time, you can get a hell of a great business for nothing. I got into it with Great Clips. Grant had a dozen stores. I had 3, but then I was working on a deal where I knew something was going on at a car wash, that they were going under, and I managed to buy the largest car wash in the state for $1.
Wow.
And then I didn't know what I was doing in the car wash business either. Kind of a common thread there. So I called my neighbor friend Grant. I said, I got this idea. Do you want in on it with me? And he said, tell me about it. And I said, no, just throw your money down. Let's. And so that's how we got into our first business and made several $100,000, and then sold it, and then we parlayed it and just continued to buy different things.
So, Greg, I heard almost two messages there, and it seems like a paradox, but it really isn't. One is that you had the courage to just do it, per Grant's earlier message. Go for it, right? So you had the courage to do that. But part of that also was you didn't know anything about the businesses that you got involved with.
I think ignorance was
sometimes
one of the great traits I have.
Yeah. Hey, I always say there's advantages to a degree of naivety. You're not going to get all of your answers addressed.
The first store, I remember Grant made a statement. We were just drinking buddies at the bar every Monday night. We'd talk about it. We weren't business partners. But he said, why would you want to buy such a distressed store? Why would you want to do that? Why don't you just build a new store? And my response to him was, I can't afford $150,000 to buy a new store. I got a little bit of tiny little bit of money to buy a distressed store and turn it around. He goes, but you're going to have to work just so much harder. And I was like, but I didn't have any other choices.
Right. So you were just in that position.
I didn't have I had no net worth, so I couldn't do it his way.
What would you tell our listeners who, like you said, you got to wear a lot of different hats when you are a business owner, right? You don't know anything about the business, but at the same time, you're wearing all of these different hats. Are there great advantages of that from a franchise perspective? I mean, what would you tell our listeners around that?
From a franchise perspective, I could start my own business from scratch, and it would be a lot of work. From a franchise perspective, they already have the computer systems. They already have some best practices. I very much like the turnkey ability of a franchise. But as far as being a jack of all trades, no one comes in knowing everything, but being open-minded and trying different things seems to be a good trait.
Yeah, wonderful.
At this point, we have a big infrastructure, so we have experts in a lot of different areas, from accounting to HR to construction, maintenance, IT. So we don't have to be a jack of all trades anymore because we have people that are specialists.
Yes, right. And you evolve into that, right? That's what you, for those that are looking to get started, you start off with a single unit potentially or with the vision of multi.
And that's an important point is getting in front of it with your infrastructure. If you know you're going to grow, you need to get the people in place ahead of time because if you get there and you don't have the people, that's how people can fail as well. You don't have the support.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Great advice. Greg, any additional stories you'd like to share?
Oh, we have a lot of stories.
How about one last one for our listeners?
After I had one or two stores, and then I got into, we bought Auto Indulgence, Auto Advantage Car Wash. I was invited to some shows, a multi-unit franchise show out in Vegas, and technically I didn't have enough stores to really qualify. I felt like a fish out of water going out there. I mean, I was thrilled to death to have 3 or 4 stores. I thought I was on top of my game. I thought I was a big fish all of a sudden, and I got out to that multi-unit conference, and there was 300 other people there, and everybody was a whale, and I was like just in awe. After walking around that show and talking to people, I realized that they weren't that much different from me. But going to that show and talking to some of the big fish, it changed my perspective on life. It changed everything. And when I got back, I was like, wow, if they can do it, I can do it. And
so what was the aha there? They could do it, I could do it.
It's just that you don't have to come from money. You don't have to come from money. But it was an aha moment. I just went and hung out at the pool, hung out at the bar, started networking and talking to people. And every one of us had different strengths, but it really was a different perspective. As far as a kind of one other thing you said, is there anything else worth mentioning? To get into franchising, it helps if you got a lot of money, but that's not the only way to get into business. Banks aren't, if you're buying distressed businesses, you can often get things 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar. But instead of going to traditional banks, like if you don't have a lot of money in your wallet and your net worth, what you can do when a business is distressed or when it's failing for whatever reason, you can ask the owner to have to hold the paper, to have owner financing. I was able to get quite a few stores that way, where I would not have qualified at the bank because I didn't really have good financials way back then when I was first getting started. Now we got great financials, but back then I did not. So if a bank wouldn't loan to me, the other way is just to go find a distressed business and say, hey, you want $100,000 for this? I'll buy it. I don't have $100. I'll give you $1 and I'll pay you, a couple $1,000s a month for the next X number of years. But you can acquire a lot of stores that way, and as long as you know how to turn it around, or at least as long as you can turn it around, you can make money on it.
Excellent. Great advice. So, if our listeners wanted to get in touch with you or see your website, Grant, how would they go about doing that? How would they go about getting in touch with you?
Well, they can go to lsgfmanagement.com, and we're there.
And what does LSGF stand for?
Life short, grow fast.
I like it. Greg, how would someone go about getting you? Same place, or any contact information you'd like to provide?
I think we're pretty high profile and readily available, but LSGF, go to our website or send an email. I can tell you that neither Grant nor I are really good with telephones. I don't think we ever answer them anymore because it's not an efficient way to communicate, but send an email or whatever. But ask a lot of questions before you get in business.
Do your due diligence, right? Research. Absolutely. Good. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'd like to go on to our next guest today. Is it John Alberry? Am I saying that right?
Albro.
Well, you sound much better than me.
You were closer than most people.
Well, that makes me feel a little better. Yeah. John is here representing Lifting Noodle Ramen. Ramen, thank you. Wow, I'm just, Lifting Noodles is located tell me where you're located.
East Atlanta Village for now. There are a number of different locations opening up across the country, but the flagship is in East Atlanta Village on Flat Shoals.
And the flagship is?
Lifting Noodle Ramen. It's
KSP Restaurant Group?
Well, KSP Restaurant Group is something that was started by Seven. He's a gentleman I work with, and him and his business partner, they originally started with just one restaurant, Burri, and saw a lot of success from that initially. They opened up 16 locations across America in the first year of business. With that success, they opened up Lifting Noodle Ramen and, have started franchising that as well. And additionally have, partnered with a number of other different restaurants to help them with franchising.
That's great. So Seven and the founders, they saw a gap in the ramen marketplace here in Atlanta and obviously wanted to put their own unique spin on the concept. It sounds like Lifting Noodles offers classic traditional dishes. But when you think of ramen, what are the different twists and the secrets to the menu? It sounds like you've got a little spin there.
Well, one of the things that Seven has always been really great about, and something I like that makes me want to work with him, is he's very, very creative with his marketing ideas. And similar to what you were saying earlier about not wanting to offer discounts on things because that's a bad business model, he'll take classic products like traditional ramen from Tokyo, and then add sort of like an innovative twist to it, incorporating a menu item that wouldn't typically be there, or presenting the plate in a way that makes it very appealing for pictures on people's Instagrams. And for example, with Burri, poke is a style of seafood, seaweed, rice that's been very popular for a long time. But he made poke donuts, he made poke burritos, he made a sushi corn dog, and these items all photograph really well. He made a poke pizza, and literally has now Lifting Noodle and Burri have people from other states driving just to come take a photo of stuff and put it on their Instagram. So he's able to go viral very easily, which is a hard thing for businesses to do. It's almost something you can't pay for. And that's what really helped him, acquire a lot of foot traffic initially, to the point where he has lines out the door at all time. And for people that are looking to buy a franchise, especially like a first-time franchise buyer, that's a very appealing aspect for a business to have, because one of the things that people have a lot of fear about when they're buying a business is, well, how am I going to get customers here? Turnkey is great, but being able to offer that like marketing appeal is really, really helpful for us.
And it sounds like it's been more of a true digital marketing focus.
Yeah, we definitely prioritize a number of different digital marketing approaches. Again, definitely taking an aggressive appreciation for social media. Instagram in particular, you can do a lot at a very, 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 very low cost. So similar to, earlier when you all were discussing about not needing a lot of capital to do a lot of different sort of creative things to help bring revenue to your business, social media has been that for us.
That's excellent. You brought up a really important topic that anyone who's moving into business ownership, I say, needs to ask themselves, and that's customer acquisition, or what we might refer to as sales and marketing.
Right.
If you have a business, you have a customer.
Right.
So it sounds like you guys are doing some really creative things.
And not just with the digital marketing. Seven initially started off by himself, and then he partnered with Ken, who has a really great tenure setting up very, very large-scale commercial kitchens. So he has like the food industry background. They've since kind of built this team around them, including me, and I help with the digital marketing. And then they have a man named David that's a bit of a real estate expert on a national level. So he's able to help put these businesses in very strategically placed areas in cities all across America. And again, in addition to the digital marketing, the appeal there is through really expert opinion that we're able to internally offer. We're sort of able to project a certain amount of foot traffic pretty much from right out the gate, and that can help someone feel more comfortable with that customer acquisition.
That's great. What, as far as business growth, obviously you have a couple different brands here. Lifting Noodle Ramen. What's the business growth plans for that particular concept?
Lifting Noodle is, we're relatively, compared to Burri, new to franchising Lifting Noodle Ramen, but we're already seeing, some good success there. We'd like to put, as many lifting noodles across America as it makes sense for the market, but really making sure that we're continuing to offer like a strong marketing support to all our franchise owners, and also having foresight into like where we're placing those businesses is what we're doing with Lifting Noodle. And past Lifting Noodle and Burri, we're continuing to partner with different brands. We just recently partnered with Green District Salad. They're super wonderful, and look forward to introducing people to them as well. They're based out of Louisville, have a great concept, really, really wonderfully strong branding, but needed a little bit of help understanding all the nuances that come with franchising. And we're also working with Savvy Provisions, which is their flagship location's actually down the street from here. Great brand, great company. The owner is super successful, but again, there's a little bit of like a nuance to helping people get into franchising, especially with like multi-unit franchising. So starting to take advantage of all the things that offer, from understanding like how awesome multi-unit franchising can be, and helping getting past some of those things that you all were talking about earlier about, there's a lot of misconceptions that you need to be like super, super wealthy, or like only big business can do big business. Like there's a lot of things that people can do, especially in this digital age, to grow really, really quickly.
And your focus for franchise growth, is it to have multi-unit franchisees?
Yes. We're starting. We've started to see that with Burri already. Starting to see that with Lifting Noodle and Green District Salads as well. But definitely having somebody, getting more into those multi-unit sales.
And the advantages of that are?
You can start thinking about things big pictures, from a lot of different ways. I remember about a year ago, I was talking to a friend of mine who's young like I am, but has just seen tremendous success, and he does a lot with real estate. And one of the things that he was talking about is when he first got into real estate, he had just like a couple of locations, just like most franchisees start with one and then they get to that like 3 or 4 level. And there's this feeling that comes with wearing a lot of hats where you're kind of running around all over the place. And as important as it is to wear a lot of hats, there becomes a transition point where you have to learn to like let other people wear those hats. And for multi-unit franchising, you start to understand the efficiencies of having operators, of using professional services for accounting and digital marketing and all of those kind of things. And you think about things in a much big picture, macro way, and that allows you to step outside of being trapped in that tunnel of like waking up every day, seeing this laundry list of things that need to happen in daily operations, and then going home and going to bed. If you do that, then you're never going to be able to grow. But if you take a step back and allow other people to operate the business and you focus on growing the business, then you can start getting into becoming like really, really profitable.
Yeah, it's multiplier effect.
Exactly. It exponentiates. Everything exponentiates.
Absolutely. What would you like to share with our listeners about lifting Noodle Ramen?
Really exciting, not very publicly known, but there's a lot of different locations opening up for Lifting Noodle. But here in the Atlanta area, Seven and KSP Restaurant Group have partnered up with Prep Commercial Kitchen, and we're opening an Asian food court in the Battery.
Oh, cool.
The food court will be called Feast, and Burri, Lifting Noodle Ramen, Snack House Bistro, and Kung Fu Tea will be there. There might be 1 or 2 other vendors there as well, but the idea is really authentic Asian food, sort of with the vein of Buford Highway, but in a more accessible location and environment at the Battery. So we're very excited about that.
Absolutely. What's the timeline for that?
Hoping that opening will be late spring, early summer of 2019, but construction goes the way construction goes.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. If someone wanted to learn a little bit more about this and track you, how would they go about doing that?
Every restaurant that we represent have really good blogs. We try really hard to document and share all of the exciting things that happen with us. So any press or any news or announcements, secret menu items, whatever kind of exciting bit of news we have on blogs. So you can go to liftingnoodleramen.com, pokeburri.com, any of our websites and see stuff. And we have a landing page for Feast, but we're still developing like all of the marketing collateral for that. So publicly there's a couple of articles teasing about an opening, but this is kind of one of the first places that we've really let people know that it's coming.
Excellent. Well, very excited. I'm a foodie, so I can't wait.
It's going to be really, really, really dope.
Will there be a grand opening?
There will be a grand opening, and we're thinking about doing a soft grand opening too, so we'll invite everybody as well. And we're going to do a lot of different events, workshops. Each of those vendors I mentioned is really awesome. They all have great owner-operators, and we'll have secret special menu items that are specific to that location. So there'll be a lot of incentive for people to go check it out.
Oh, yeah. I'm there.
Yeah. We'll see you there.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to know. Wow, we've got a real great theme going on here, just this whole multi-unit theme and different concepts. And I'm going to kind of circle back around here. We have another great guest in the studio. Michelle, welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Michelle Holloman is VP of Franchise Development for Pigtails and Crewcuts. Yes. Part of the franchisor unit. Michelle worked with the franchising industry, not to date either one of us, right, back to 1997. Throughout that time, you built experience working for the parent companies of well-known brands such as Heavenly Ham, Honey Baked Ham, Moe's Southwest Grill, Planet Smoothie, PJ's Coffee. Now you serve as the VP of Franchise Development for Pigtails and Crewcuts. And really, what you do is you help qualify prospective franchisees to determine whether or not they would really be a good owner of a Pigtail and Crewcut salon.
Right. That is correct.
Let's. I know we've been talking about the multi-unit thing, but tell us first of all. Tell us a little bit about Pigtails and Crewcuts.
Pigtails and Crewcuts is a kids' hair salon franchise, and we're headquartered right here in Atlanta, Georgia. We have we have products, we have haircutting services for young children. When you walk into a Pigtails and Crewcuts, you'll see bright colored walls and theme car chairs and movies playing at each station and video games and toys for the young children while they're waiting. So we want to make the experience fun and memorable for children, but also for the parents as well.
Would you talk to us a little about the industry, right? We were just talking about great clips, and now we've gone to from adult salons to kids salons.
Right. So the hair care industry is a $60 billion industry, and the children's segment is about $7 billion.
Okay.
So the children's hair salon is extremely fragmented, and our business model is really simple. So we want to make sure that we get into communities that are affluent communities and that can support in their desirable areas where kids need haircuts. And so certainly we love talking to franchise owners that have young children and are looking for something to do outside of the corporate world, having that work-life balance scenario. They're trying to figure it out. They're figured, hey, if I'm working in the corporate world and I'm working this hard, why don't I do something for myself? And so our target audience has always been parents with young children. And we love that. But now I would love to focus, like, Greg and Grant, on multi-unit, multi-concept franchisees. Because I think we could complement what they already have with their experience and their franchise experience, but then also serve a different demographic, which is children.
I like it. So why franchising? You hit on something a little bit ago when you said that this space is fragmented, and whenever I say you come across a fragmented space, that very often is good for franchising. That's a good criteria. Like
everybody here, franchising, I believe, is the way to go because you're getting the franchise support. You're getting the turnkey. Everybody has skill sets. You may be good at marketing, you may be good at, the financial aspect. But joining a franchise, you are getting the support. And we have excellent franchise support in our office. In our offices, we have over 75 years combined of franchising experience. Our goal, our primary mission, is to help our franchisees be successful. And so we work really hard because their success is our success. Absolutely. And so we work really hard on helping them with all aspects of the operation and making sure they have an understanding and to be jack of all trade.
There's the kind of two sides of the business equation, right? You have one side of the business equation are those proven methods of operation and really knowing how to operate the inner workings of the business itself. But then the other side of that equation is being effective as a franchisor and knowing how to grow a franchise system, how to train and support.
That's right.
And it sounds like you've got both sides of that equation.
We do.
If someone was interested in a Pigtails and Crewcuts, help them understand what would that investment look like.
The total investment for Pigtails and Crewcuts is around $230,000, and that's inclusive of our franchise fee of $30,000 for a single unit. We have multiple unit options if someone wanted to go that route. Obviously, there's the discounted franchise fee, the larger protected territory, the development schedule that we put behind it. We also have an area representative program if someone is interested in that, and they would, buy a territory or space and then develop them or sell them off and go that route. But it's about $230,000.
So with the area, explain the area representative opportunity. That's would they be opening up their own stores or would they be
either or? So
okay.
we require that they open at least one. We want them to know the operations. We want them to know and understand our business, and then they can either develop in the territories that they were interested in, or they can sell it off and represent as the franchisor. We will always be there. We will always help, in any way possible. But they would be doing the training of the new franchisee. They would be doing the support.
Sort of a sub-franchisor role.
Correct.
Is what I like to refer to it as.
Right.
Which is excellent. There are a lot of franchisors that don't offer that. So that in itself is a unique offering. where are you looking to expand right now?
We have 61 locations open in 23 states. We have about 24 additional units to be developed. They're in different development stages, whether it's commitment or they are negotiating the lease or they're actually in pre-opening and construction. We've grown organically over the years, and we now have a pretty aggressive growth strategy going forward. So we are in Atlanta. Our headquarters are in Atlanta. So I am focusing primarily in the Southeast. It's our backyard.
Sure.
Let's go ahead and take over the Southeast. But I'm not opposed to, expanding nationwide if someone comes to me.
Absolutely.
Right.
And right now, are you primarily in the Southeast? Do you have some units on the West Coast at all?
We do, as far west as Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't get to do that visit
No.
very often, but I should.
Exactly. I'll go on that trip with you. Well, what sets Pigtails and Crewcuts apart?
So we have the salon side, which is giving the best customer service. It's not just about the haircut. A haircut is something that someone can do in their own home, in their bathroom or in the driveway. It's about creating that experience, making sure you give excellent customer service, making sure that first haircut, which is a huge deal for moms and dads, putting it in the baby book or, making sure cutting at that lock of hair. It's like Samson. They lose all their power if they don't have that hair. But it's creating that experience and making it memorable. On the franchise headquarters side, in our office, it's about supporting our franchise owners. We want them to succeed. And our CEO, Wade Brannon, says, we're not just in the hair industry. We're in the franchise support industry. And so our goal, again, is making sure, because our franchisees are investing in something that they love, and we need to make sure that we give them all the tools needed for them to succeed.
Well, I love that. And of course, I'm giggling here because I just got a little note from someone saying they're interested. Are there any distressed properties for sale?
Let's talk, Rich. Or actually, Greg.
So, Michelle, if someone wanted to get in touch with you and learn a little bit more about what does it mean to be a franchisee, how would they go? They could contact me, but how would they go about contacting you?
Go to our website, pigtailsandcrewcutsfranchise.com. You can call me. You can email me. You can also speak with my counterpart, Hannah Swanson. We would love to talk to anybody about this. It's an exciting concept. If you love children, not just your own children, but you love all children, and you want to be a part of your community, give us a call.
Absolutely. And just so everybody knows, when they go to Pigtails and Crewcuts, the "and" is spelled out, right?
Correct.
Pigtails and
A-N-D. It's a very long website.
Oh, but it works. Excellent. And definitely, if you want to speak with Michelle and learn a little bit more about what it means to be an area representative, a multi-unit, or even a single-unit operator, let us know. It's an emerging, growing segment of the salon space.
Yes.
And you know what? Before we move on, because I'm going to open this up to everyone, a little roundtable discussion here. Semi-absentee is a very popular topic that I'm hearing about right now, right? The job market's very strong. And everyone wants to figure out, hey, how do I keep my job? But I want to diversify. What advice would you give to that person that's in corporate America and looking to diversify and find a semi-absentee business? Does it exist? Whatever pieces of advice you'd like to give. Michelle, I'll kick off with you.
So, obviously, in our concept, in our brand, we have all scenarios. We have the franchisee that wants to open the door and close the door. She or he wants to be there day in and day out. We have some that have full-time jobs and they have a manager in place and they manage the manager. And with technology nowadays, you can always check in on your business and make sure things are going right. And so what I always encourage my franchise owners is make the commitment in the very beginning. You want to understand your business. You want to manage your people and create the culture within your four walls because you want your employees to buy into what you have. And they'll, as you know, Greg said, they will work harder, they will work smarter for you, and so if you can dedicate 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it is, to that business, and I believe in our concept, those that are willing to do that have a better success rate because of the fact that they are willing to do that.
Great information. Thoughts, Greg?
If you're looking to invest in franchising and you think it's like a mutual fund and you just sit back and watch, you're going to go broke. If you've got a 40-hour, if you've got a salary job and you're looking at it in franchising, a good idea is to make sure you spend 10 or 15 hours a week. Do it at night, do it in the middle of the night, do it before you have your 9 to 5 job. But you can't be passive. If you want to make money, you've really got to get involved. You have to make decisions. You have to get out and shake hands and kiss babies with the customers. You've got to get out and talk to your employees. You've got to make changes. Every franchisor says, there's a lot of franchisors out there that say it's a passive investment. I don't think there is such a thing. So,
this is a great topic, and that's why I brought it up. Does it exist?
I don't think so. I think franchisors state it, but if you're going to get into franchising, you need to get involved. You need to spend 10 hours. I will say, when I was getting started, I was working 40 or 50 hours a week at a bad salary, but a salary job, and I did the Great Clips early in the morning, and then I'd come home in the afternoon and I'd do payroll, and then I'd work on the weekends. I did whatever it took to make my store successful. But I didn't work inside the 4 walls. I definitely didn't work inside the 4 walls, but I did the back office, the everything else.
Right. And is it fair for me to say that there's been an evolution as you start to grow that portfolio? Like you're saying, you didn't work within the four walls, but you're working the weekends. At what point do you get to, as you're building out that portfolio, do you get to have lifestyle?
It depends on how much return on your investment you're making. If you're making 20 or whatever, after the debt's paid down. I mean, if you make $50,000 a year off of a Great Clips or a Pigtails and Crewcuts, if you're making $50,000 a year and you got $40,000 a year in debt service, well, you can't do anything except pay down debt service. But in 3 or 4 years, when it's paid off, and you get 2 or 3 or 4 or 100 of those stores, you can start making some really good money.
Great.
So,
and Grant, we'll come back around to you in a second. John, thoughts, advice?
For us, all of the businesses that we work with actually work all right for semi-absentee owners. Of course, everything that was just said is true. There's no such thing as a 100% passive investment. There's always going to be some work required. But for us, we have low startup cost for all of our businesses. They're very, very, very lean startup costs, small footprints, square footage-wise. And another thing that we always try to do is make sure that all of the business models for the different brands that we work with have pretty good profit margins on average. And as we've grown internally, team-wise, we're able to offer so much more training and support than originally was required. For us, creating brands originally that we intended on franchising, in the beginning, we had to put in a lot of our own resources and work to make sure that each of those first initial locations were successful. And from there, we've seen like a gradual but progressive growth in what we're able to offer businesses to sort of help ensure that they're more successful from the jump. But like what was just said, I do think is true. There's always going to be some amount of at least checking in. And if you do want to be semi-absentee, the one thing that I say that I feel like I see more than anything is people forgetting that semi-absentee does require an operator. Like you do have to make sure that you've hired and sourced somebody that has sort of the same values as you do from an owner's perspective for your business. You can't just hire anybody off the street to run your business for you when you're not there.
A lot of great points. And I also want to magnify a point that you made, which is I think that there are certain concepts that lend themselves to being a little bit more simplified and easier to run as a semi-absentee and find an operator to actually run it. Grant, any other words of advice?
Well, I've just seen it work as a stepping stone. Somebody who's already made the commitment that they don't like their job and want to work for themselves and get into a franchise, maybe makes the investment, does the best they can, holds on to their job and their business, and eventually has a plan to exit from their job and make it a full-time business. I've seen that work, but unless they make that transition, I've seen it fail numerous times.
As well. Good. Thank you, everybody. No, and that's going to go ahead and bring Franchise Business Radio Show to a close. Before we do, I just want to go around the studio again, and if you would just give your website. So if people want to reach out and do some work on this, learn a little bit more, they can do that. May I go ahead, Greg?
Greg Thomas and Grant Simon. Our website is LSGF Management, and LSGF is, since it's LSGF stands for Life Short, Grow Fast. And where that came from is I was 40 years old when I got started in franchising, and I knew I didn't have much time left to catch up to all the Joneses. So, but that's how they can get a hold of us.
And now you have Life Short, Grow Fast. John?
For us, the best place is liftingnoodleramen.com. You can find out a lot of great information about buying a very affordable restaurant with very strong marketing behind it already.
Excellent. Michelle?
Michelle Holloman, and I'm with Pigtails and Crewcuts franchise.com.
Excellent. And this is Pamela Curry, host of Franchise Business Radio Show, signing off. And I also want to give a shout out to Robert Edwards, Franchise City. Thank you for your sponsorship of Franchise Business Radio Show.
Thank you again for joining Pam Curry and her guests on the Franchise Business Radio Show, sponsored by Franchise Intellect, knowledge and insight of the franchise community for franchise selection. More info at franchiseintellect.com. Also made possible in part by Franchise City, a better way to buy a franchise. More info at franchise.city. Use the social media links here to share today's show and check out more episodes at franchisebusinessradio.com.